Welcome to today's deep dive.
Hmm.
We're going to be exploring the path to a more harmonious life
Right.
by taking a look at Steve M. Beauchamp's book,
Right.
The War Within Us.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
think the key takeaway is not just to summarize it,
Yeah.
but to extract those golden nuggets of wisdom that you can actually apply
Exactly. So
to your life.
that's right. We're not aiming for a book report here.
Yeah.
We're after like those aha moments, those
Yeah.
insights that make you think, wait, I can actually use
For
this.
sure, for sure. Okay, so Steve starts by redefining this whole idea of work-life balance.
Mhm.
It's not about splitting your time perfectly between work and personal life.
Exactly. He calls it work-life harmony.
Okay.
It's more about finding work that resonates with who you are at your core
Yeah.
and integrating that into a life that feels whole.
That really resonated with me because sometimes I find myself thinking, if I could just tweak my schedule this way,
Mm-hmm.
things would be perfect.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more about finding work that actually lights me up in the first place.
That's a perfect example of what Steve calls embracing acceptance, or arugama,
Okay.
as it's known in Japanese philosophy. It's about accepting things as they are without judgment,
Yeah.
not giving up,
Okay.
but recognizing what you can and cannot control.
So instead of getting frustrated that I can't balance all these different things,
Yeah.
maybe the first step is accepting that life is messy
Mm-hmm.
and work might never fit into a neat little box.
Precisely. And that acceptance can free up so much mental energy.
Yeah.
Steve learned this firsthand through some tough personal challenges, including a very honest conversation with a former boss
Yeah.
that forced him to examine his own black and white thinking.
It reminds me of that first principle he pulls from Dokuju, the
Yeah.
writings of the legendary samurai Miyamoto Musashi.
Mm-hmm.
Do not go against the way of the human world.
Right.
Accept everything just the way it is.
It's such a powerful reminder.
It is.
That fighting against reality often just creates more suffering.
Absolutely. So how do we move from this idea of acceptance to actually figuring out what kind of work would bring us that sense of harmony?
Well, Steve offers a really practical tool for self-discovery,
Okay.
the VIA Character Strength Survey.
Okay.
And the best part?
Yeah.
It's free.
Oh, I love a free tool.
Yes.
Tell me more.
This survey helps you pinpoint your top character strengths.
Okay.
Things like curiosity, kindness, creativity, leadership,
Mm-hmm.
those core qualities that make you you.
Okay.
And from there, you can start to see how those strengths might translate into a fulfilling career,
Mm-hmm.
or even just activities you're naturally drawn to.
So it's like connecting the dots between who you are
Yes.
and what you do in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it all ties into this Japanese concept of ikigai,
Okay.
your reason for being.
Okay.
It's that sweet spot where your passions, your skills, what the world needs, and what you could be paid for all intersect.
I've heard of Ikigai, but to be honest, I always thought it sounded a little too woo-woo.
It's easy to dismiss, but when you break it down,
Yeah.
it's really about finding a sense of purpose and meaning in your work,
That's-
something that makes you feel alive.
So it's not necessarily about finding the perfect job,
Mm-hmm.
but more about aligning what you do with your values and what feels truly important to you.
That's a great way to put it.
Hmm.
And Steve's own journey is a testament to this.
Yeah.
He didn't find his ikigai in the corporate world.
Okay.
It was through his passion for Japanese philosophy and helping others that he found his true calling.
And that reminds me of that story he tells about the daimyo,
Oh, yeah.
a Japanese feudal lord
Mhm.
who wanted to cut a beautiful cherry tree branch to decorate his palanquin.
Right.
His wife stops him with a poem,
Yeah.
reminding him that true beauty is found in appreciating the whole,
Yes.
not just taking what we want for fleeting pleasure.
Ah, yes. The story of the daimyo and the cherry tree branch.
Yeah.
It's a powerful metaphor for how we often chase after things we think will make us happy,
Mm-hmm.
only to find that true satisfaction comes from something deeper.
It's like chasing a promotion just for the money or status without considering if it actually aligns with your values or brings you joy.
Which connects beautifully to another Dokju principle.
Yeah.
Do not seek pleasure for its own sake.
Yeah.
Steve emphasizes that chasing fleeting happiness can actually lead to more dissatisfaction.
Right.
Finding work aligned with your purpose, however, that's where lasting fulfillment comes in.
Okay, so we've talked about acceptance, finding our ikigai,
Mm-hmm.
and aligning our work with our purpose.
Right.
But let's get real. Our lives can get so cluttered, both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
How do we even begin to create space for this harmony Steve talks about?
That's where things get really practical.
Okay.
Steve draws inspiration from another aspect of Japanese culture, the concept of the tea room.
Okay.
It's a space designed for simplicity purpose and freedom from attachment to material possessions.
And he's not just talking about minimalist decor, right?
Right. He uses the tea room as a metaphor for our lives.
Okay.
He challenges us to look at what we're holding on to both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
That might be weighing us down.
He even offers practical tips for decluttering using the 5S methodology. It's a
Mhm.
system commonly used in manufacturing,
Yeah.
but he shows how we can apply it to our homes, our workspaces,
hmm
and even our minds.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's not just about getting rid of stuff for the sake of it.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional with what we allow into our lives.
Exactly. And he shares this relatable anecdote about his own father,
Okay.
a construction worker who had a habit of hoarding tools,
Yeah.
just in case he needed them someday.
Oh, yeah.
It highlights the hidden costs of owning too much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The time we spend looking for things, the energy we drain, worrying about them, even the financial cost of storage.
It makes you think twice about that amazing deal you just scored online, right?
Absolutely. Steve's point is that true freedom comes from detaching from material possessions.
Okay.
It's about understanding that our worth isn't tied to what we own.
Yeah.
And when we free ourselves from that burden,
Yeah.
we create space for the things that truly matter.
Okay, so we've tackled accepting reality, finding our purpose, and decluttering our lives.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another hurdle that often trips us up. Comparison.
Yes.
It's so easy to look at what others are doing and feel jealous or resentful.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And Steve tackles this head on with another Dukkha principle. Never be jealous of others, either good or evil.
Yeah.
He reminds us that comparison is a trap.
Mm.
It steals our joy and keeps us focused on what we lack instead of appreciating what we have.
It's so easy to get caught in that trap, scrolling through social media and feeling like everyone else has it figured out.
But here's the thing.
Mm.
What we see on social media is often a carefully curated version of reality.
Right.
It's not the whole picture.
Yeah, and even if someone genuinely has something we desire,
Mm-hmm.
Steve says it's more productive to focus on what we want, not what others have.
That's such a powerful mindset shift.
Yeah.
Instead of wasting energy on jealousy,
Mm-hmm.
we can channel that energy into pursuing our own goals.
Yeah.
And Steve even shares a personal story from his childhood that really illustrates this.
Oh, yes. The story about hip perthes.
Yes.
Tell me that one really stuck with me.
As a child, Steve had this condition that required him to wear a leg brace.
Right.
He couldn't participate in all the activities his friends could.
Yeah.
But instead of getting bogged down in jealousy, he focused on what he could do.
Yeah.
He even figured out how to play hockey with the brace by becoming the goalie.
It's a reminder that even when we face limitations, we can often find a way to participate and achieve our goals, even if it looks different than we initially imagined.
Exactly. It's about finding a way to turn challenges into opportunities.
Yeah. And speaking of challenges, life inevitably throws us curveballs, right?
It does.
Loss, separation, grief.
Mm-hmm.
These are experiences that can shake us to our core.
Absolutely.
This is where the deep dive gets really powerful. Steve doesn't shy away from these difficult topics.
Mm-hmm.
He shares the story of his friend Zahir, who grew up during the Lebanese Civil War,
Yes.
experiencing incredible loss and separation at a young age.
And despite the trauma he endured,
Yeah.
Zahir didn't let those experiences crush him.
Yeah.
He adapted, built a new life for himself, and found a way to thrive.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
Steve also opens up about his own experiences with loss, including the passing of loved ones and even one of his dogs.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
He talks about the raw, gut-wrenching pain of grief.
Yeah.
But he also shares how he chooses to focus on hope and acceptance, even in the midst of sorrow.
And he connects this beautifully to another Dukkha principle.
Okay.
Never let yourself be saddened by a separation.
It's not about denying the pain of loss,
No.
but recognizing that clinging to it won't bring our loved ones back.
Exactly.
It's about finding a way to honor their memory while still moving forward with hope.
That's right.
It reminds me of that saying, grief is just love with nowhere to go.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And Stave emphasizes that focusing on the present moment and finding hope for the future can be incredibly helpful in navigating those difficult emotions.
It's like he's saying, yes, life is hard,
Mm.
but we have a choice in how we respond to that hardship.
Yeah.
We can choose to dwell in the pain,
Mm.
or we can choose to find hope and meaning even in the darkness.
Exactly. And that brings us to another vital element of finding work-life harmony,
Okay.
self-leadership.
I'm intrigued. What does Steve say about that?
He connects it to another Dukkha principle.
Okay.
Never stray from the way of strategy.
Okay.
He explains that Just as a samurai needs a strategy for battle,
Yeah.
we need a strategy for our lives.
So what does that look like in a practical sense?
It's about developing self-awareness, understanding our ikigai,
Mm-hmm.
and pursuing our goals with intention.
Okay.
It's about taking ownership of our choices
Yeah.
and not waiting for someone else to give us permission to live a fulfilling life.
So much to think about already.
We've just scratched the surface. Let's talk about something that can often hold us back from growth,
Okay.
getting stuck in our routines.
Okay.
Steve tells this really interesting story
Okay.
about a blending room at Starbucks
Starbucks.
where the team was struggling with material flow.
Okay, I'm all ears. What does blending coffee have to do with work-life harmony?
It's about seeing things with fresh eyes.
Okay.
This team had been working in the same way for years,
Mm.
but Steve, with his outsider perspective,
Okay.
was able to help them implement a simple just-in-time system
Okay.
that solved their problem.
So sometimes our own expertise can actually become a blind spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it connects back to another Dokut principle.
Okay.
In all things, do not have preferences.
Okay.
It's about staying open to new ideas,
Okay.
even if they challenge our existing ways of doing things.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a beginner's mind,
Yeah.
even when we're experts in our field.
That's a good reminder for me.
Oh, yeah.
I get so set in my ways sometimes, especially when it comes to my work process. I need to remember that there's always room for improvement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of shifting perspectives,
Yeah.
let's talk about something that can be a major source of stress
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
Okay.
Our attachment to where we live.
Oh, I feel this one. I'm a bit of a homebody myself.
Steve actually shares some pretty intense personal stories
Yeah.
about losing his home not once but twice
Oh, wow.
due to flooding.
Wow, that must have been incredibly challenging.
It was. And those experiences really drove home the point
Yeah.
that attachment to a specific place can actually create more suffering, especially when things go wrong.
That's a perspective I hadn't considered before.
Yeah, Steve talks about learning to find joy anywhere, as long as basic needs are met. He finds solace in nature, in backpacking,
Okay.
in those simple moments of connection with the world around him.
It reminds me of how we talked about the Japanese tea room earlier.
Yes.
It's not about the physical space itself,
Right.
but the intention behind it. Simplicity, purpose, freedom from attachment.
Exactly. And it's something we can cultivate in our lives,
Yeah.
regardless of where we live.
Yeah.
It's about finding contentment in the present moment, rather than pinning our happiness on external circumstances.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Another area Steve explores
Okay.
is the idea of taking care of our bodies
Okay.
without getting caught up in overindulgence. He even quotes the Dokuju on this.
Okay.
Do not give special preference to the taste of good food.
Wait, hold on. Is he saying we should eat bland food? Because
Bro.
I'm a total foodie.
He's not advocating for a boring diet.
Okay.
It's more about finding balance.
Okay.
It's about being mindful of what we consume
Yeah.
and making choices that nourish our bodies
Okay.
without getting caught up in excessive cravings
Yeah.
or the need for fancy delicacies.
You know, when you put it that way, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get so fixated on trying the latest trendy food
Yeah.
that I forget to savor the simple pleasures, like a perfectly ripe piece of fruit or a home-cooked meal made with love.
Those simple pleasures are often the most satisfying.
Right.
And Steve even shares a funny anecdote from Christy Shen, author of Quit Like a Millionaire,
Okay.
who remembers feeling incredibly rich as a child just from getting a can of Coke.
It's a reminder that true joy often comes from the simplest things,
Yes.
not from chasing after expensive or elaborate experiences.
Exactly.
We've talked a lot about decluttering our physical spaces,
Right.
but what about that mental clutter?
Mm.
The to-do lists, the worries, the constant stream of information?
Yeah.
How do we manage all that?
Steve addresses this head on. He tells a story about his own father,
Okay.
who had a habit of hoarding tools,
Ooh.
just in case he needed them someday.
Yes, the tool hoarder story.
Yes.
That one resonated with me because
Yeah.
I can be a bit of an information hoarder myself.
Mhm.
I'm always saving articles and bookmarks,
Yeah.
thinking I'll get to them someday.
And that's where he brings back the 5S methodology.
Okay.
Remember, it's not just about getting rid of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's about understanding the habits that led to the clutter in the first place
Yeah.
and creating systems to prevent it from coming back.
So how do we apply this to our mental clutter?
Well, think about those articles you're saving.
Okay.
Are you actually reading them?
Mm.
Are they helping you achieve your goals?
Mhm.
Or are they just creating a sense of overwhelm?
Ouch, that hits close to home.
Steve challenges us to be more discerning with the information we consume.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what's truly useful?
Mm.
What's aligned with my ikigai?
Okay.
And let go of the rest.
So it's about curating our mental space just as intentionally as we curate our physical space.
Yes.
I like that.
And here's another mindset shift that Steve talks about.
Okay.
The danger of superstitious thinking.
Okay.
He uses the Dokdu principle. Do not believe in this or that arbitrarily, and do not become absorbed in any one thing.
Superstitions.
Yeah.
How does that tie into work-life harmony?
It's about recognizing when our thoughts and beliefs are holding us back. Superstitions are essentially fears disguised as beliefs.
Okay.
And those fears can prevent us from taking risks,
Right.
from pursuing our goals,
Yeah.
from living fully.
Oh, I see the connection. It's
Yeah.
like when we say, I'm not lucky enough to get that promotion, or
Yeah.
I'm just not good at public speaking,
Right.
we're letting those limiting beliefs dictate our actions.
Exactly. And Steve emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we want,
Yeah.
not on what we're afraid of.
Okay.
He talks about how our minds can get so caught up in patterns of worry and fear
Mm-hmm.
that we forget to even consider what's possible.
So it's about challenging those negative thought patterns.
Yes.
And replacing them with more empowering beliefs.
And it's about trusting in our own abilities to create the outcomes we desire.
Okay. I'm ready to ditch the superstitions and embrace a more empowered mindset.
Good.
But there's another challenge that often feels insurmountable. Time management.
Yes.
There's just never enough time to do everything.
That's a common feeling.
Right.
But Steve offers a really practical perspective on this.
Okay.
He talks about how to get more time
Mm-hmm.
by focusing on the right things.
Okay.
And he uses his own experience with reading and learning as an example.
Okay, Steve's a total bookworm, right?
Yes.
So how does he manage all that reading without getting overwhelmed?
He realized that even his love of reading
Mm-hmm.
could become a source of clutter and wasted time if he wasn't careful.
Yeah.
He even connects this to another Dokuj principle.
Okay.
Do not seek, especially either to collect or to practice with weapons beyond what is useful.
Weapons? I'm assuming he's using that metaphorically here.
Yes, he's using weapons to represent any kind of tool or resource we might accumulate,
Okay.
whether it's books, information,
Mm-hmm.
or even skills.
Okay.
He challenges us to ask ourselves, what's truly useful?
Mm-hmm.
What's helping me achieve my goals? And what's just clutter, draining my time and energy?
So it's not about becoming a minimalist and getting rid of all our books and hobbies.
No.
It's about being intentional with how we use our time and resources.
Exactly. And Steve even shares a practical tip he uses
Okay.
to manage his book collection.
Okay.
Index cards.
Oh.
He jots down key quotes and ideas on index cards,
Okay.
so he can easily reference them later
Mm,
without having to reread entire books.
that's brilliant. I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
What else does Steve say about managing our time effectively?
He emphasizes the importance of having a clear vision
Mm-hmm.
for what we want to accomplish.
Okay.
When we know our why,
Yeah.
it's easier to prioritize tasks that are aligned with our goals
Mm-hmm.
and let go of those that aren't serving us.
So it's not just about being busy. It's about being productive in a way that moves us closer to our ikigai.
Precisely. Now ready to tackle a big one.
Bring it on.
Let's talk about the fear of death.
Whoa. Okay. That got real serious real fast.
It's a topic most people avoid, but Steve faces it head on.
Okay.
He shares a deeply personal story
Okay.
about the passing of his beloved dog, Puppet, and how that experience taught him about cherishing the present moment.
I remember that story. It was heartbreaking,
Mm-hmm.
but also so beautiful in the way he talked about the bond they shared.
He connects it to the Dakushtu principle. Do not fear death.
Okay.
Samurai warriors face death constantly.
Mm-hmm.
They learn to accept it as a natural part of life,
Right.
not something to be feared.
That's a profound way to look at it.
And Steve encourages us to embrace the present moment
Mm-hmm.
and not let fear rob us of the joy of life. He emphasizes that finding his ikigai,
Yeah.
his reason for being,
Yeah.
helped him shift his focus from fear to a sense of purpose and fulfillment.
So it's not about ignoring the reality of death, but
No.
rather recognizing that our time is precious
Yes.
and choosing to live each day to the fullest.
Absolutely. And he also addresses another common fear that holds people back,
Okay.
the fear of not having enough for old age.
Oh, I know people who are consumed by this fear.
Yeah.
They're constantly working and saving, afraid to enjoy the present moment. Right.
Because they're so worried about the future.
Steve shares a story about a coworker named Ned. who work tirelessly,
Yeah.
saving every penny for retirement.
Yeah.
Sadly, Ned passed away shortly after retiring, never getting to enjoy the fruits of his labor.
That's so sad.
It is.
It's a reminder that we need to find balance between planning for the future and enjoying the present.
And he connects this to the Dokujus principle: do not try to collect things for your old age.
Wow.
It's a reminder that true wealth isn't measured by our bank accounts,
Mm-hmm.
but by the richness of our experiences, relationships, and the impact we have on the world.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Yeah,
So much wisdom packed into this book.
we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
but there's still more to explore.
Let's talk about something that often gets misinterpreted.
Okay.
The idea of relying on a higher power.
Okay, that definitely has the potential to get tricky.
Right.
What does Steve say about this?
He shares a story about an ex-girlfriend
Okay.
who had a habit of making what he calls conditional prayers.
Okay.
It was like she was saying, God, if you do this for me, then I'll be grateful.
I've definitely fallen into that trap myself.
Yeah.
Please let me get this job and I promise I'll be a better person.
Right.
But what happens when things don't go our way?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in his ex-girlfriend's case, it led to a lot of anger and resentment towards that higher power.
It's like we're putting conditions on our own gratitude, which kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
That's Steve's point. And he connects this to a adopted principle that might surprise you.
Okay.
Respect the gods and Buddhas, but do not rely on their help.
That's a really interesting take.
Yeah.
It's not about rejecting spirituality,
Right.
but understanding that true strength and resilience come from within.
Right. It's about taking ownership of our lives, our choices, and recognizing that we have the power to create our own destiny, regardless of our beliefs.
So it's about cultivating that inner strength and not expecting a higher power to fix things for us or rescue us from our challenges.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about something that's absolutely essential for finding true work-life harmony,
Okay.
being authentic.
This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially in the context of work. It's so easy to feel pressure to present a certain image, to hide our true selves behind a mask of professionalism.
And Steve really gets personal here.
Okay.
He talks about his own struggles with this,
Yeah.
trying to be someone. He wasn't hiding parts of himself, even grappling with alcohol as a way to cope with that inner conflict.
It's a reminder that everyone has their own battles,
Mhm.
their own shadows they're grappling with.
Right. And he talks about how trying to be someone he was not, it was actually led to some negative behaviors.
Yeah.
Arrogance, mean-spiritedness. It was creating disharmony within himself and in his relationships.
So trying to fit in to please others can actually backfire and make us act in ways that are out of alignment with our true selves.
That was his experience. And it wasn't until he had the courage to face his true self,
Okay.
flaws and all that, he was able to find genuine connection and healing.
That takes a lot of courage
Yeah.
to be vulnerable and show up authentically, especially in a world that often rewards conformity.
It does. And he connects this to a Dokkan principle. That, at first glance, might seem a bit unexpected.
Okay.
Guard your reputation with your life.
Now that one really throws me for a loop. How does guarding your reputation relate to being authentic?
It's a fascinating connection.
Yeah.
Steve explains that true honor, true reputation,
Okay.
comes from aligning our actions with our values, from being true to ourselves,
Yeah.
even when it's difficult.
So it's not about creating a facade of perfection, but about living with integrity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he makes this powerful statement. The world needs you to be you.
Wow.
He's saying that it's in our uniqueness, our authenticity, that we truly shine and make a difference.
You know, thinking back to that first principle we talked about, accepting things as they are,
Yeah.
maybe accepting ourselves flaws and all, is a crucial part of that.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
All comes back to that self-acceptance.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
We've explored so many facets of work-life harmony.
We
What's the one thing we can take away and start applying today to create that sense of wholeness in our own lives?
I think if there's one message that runs through Steve's entire book, it's this. The power to create a life of harmony and purpose lies within each of us.
Yeah.
It's about self-leadership, taking responsibility for our choices, and recognizing that we have the capacity to change, to grow, to live a life that truly reflects our values.
And that reminds me of another Dude principle we touched on earlier. Never stray from the way of strategy.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about having a vision for our lives and a strategy for getting there. It's about setting goals and taking consistent action even when it's challenging.
And maybe, just maybe, that way of strategy starts with getting really honest with ourselves about who we are, what we want, and having the courage to show up authentically in the world.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And as Steve so eloquently says in his book,
Yeah.
change starts with you, but it doesn't start until you do.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on.
I agree.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the war within us.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
And to all our listeners out there, remember, the journey toward work-life harmony is ongoing.
Mm.
Every small step you take, every choice you make to align your actions with your values brings you closer to that sense of wholeness and purpose.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to create a life that truly reflects who you are and brings you joy.
Until next time.